Hey, Shep here at Iron Anchor Cycles, and I want to talk a little bit today about how to make power from a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. And more specifically than that, I want to talk about the first step in how to make power from a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. I'll talk about the first step, and then maybe I'll talk about step 0, which is maybe a step we all maybe skip that should come before making power, but comes afterwards. So, what's step 1 in making power from a Harley-Davidson motorcycle? Well, we're looking at it right here, and that has to do with how air moves through the motor. And that's going to be your air intake and your exhaust pipe. And I think that this topic deserves a little bit of time to talk about because it's not quite as simple as I bought a Harley, it has a stock intake and exhaust on it, I'm going to change them, and I'm going to go drag my friends and be the fastest bike around. Certainly not that, but it is really important, and I want to talk about why. So what we know is that in order to make more power, at least in the initial stages out of a Harley motor, is you need to move more air through it. And we can talk about the details of why that is, but suffice it to say, that's what you're trying to do. It's a big air pump. To make more power, you need to move more air through it. So go slap on a pipe, open up the intake with a new air cleaner, and you're good to go. Well, yes and no. The first thing I want to talk about is the exhaust. There's a lot of misnomers out there. You buy a bike and you put a set of slip-on mufflers on it and you think you're going to make power with that. You're not. It might sound better, and if that's your goal, you're not necessarily looking for power, you just want the bike to have a better sound, like, hey, all the more power to you, you're good to go. Pick whichever ones you want, throw them on there. There's literally nothing else for you to do. You're good. However, if what you're trying to do is make power, you need to be thinking about the whole exhaust system, and that's obviously the head pipe and the muffler, but also thinking about how it's designed and what it does. We get a lot of comments on some of the bikes that we build where people say, hey, that sounds great, what muffler or what pipe is that? And, we'll tell them, in this case, it's a Horsepower Inc. We've got other pipes on other bikes, but, I always try to say, hey, it sounds great, but that's not why it's on here. We put this pipe on because it's the right pipe for this motor to make the right power. So really what you're doing by putting this exhaust pipe on is you're giving the motor the opportunity to make more power. And I think that's key. In the case of most Harley motors, really a 2-into-1 pipe is going to make more power than true duals for sure, or even a two muffler system with a crossover pipe. Now, that's not to say that there are no good 2-muffler systems, but it's just one of those things where I make this point because power is made based on how air moves through the motor, and how the air leaves the motor determines how much air is going to move through it, and that's just simple physics there. It's the same is true on the intake side, but we'll talk about the exhaust first, and then we'll get there. So basically the point I'm trying to make is you need to buy a good exhaust that's designed to make power for your motor, meaning the amount of power your motor makes or should make, the displacement, and how it's built. So sort of the summary here is throwing a set of slip-on mufflers will not make more power on your bike. Even putting a really nice pipe like this one from Horsepower Inc. on your bike, it will give it the opportunity to make more power, and it will set the motor up for success to be able to produce the power that you're looking for. So that's the exhaust side of things. Now we'll talk about the air intake. And if we're talking about a stock motor, this is going to be your limiting factor in terms of air moving through the bike. With a stock air box, you've got a disposable filter that doesn't move a lot of air. It's all closed in. Not a lot of air moves through there. So you open it up and put a better air cleaner on, and you give the motor the opportunity to have more air come in. Matched with the properly flowing exhaust pipe you did, you're now going to move more air through the motor, and again, give the motor the opportunity to create more power. And I keep saying opportunity because what the missing detail here is having the bike tuned properly. So this is all, again, it's complicated in terms of application, but it's pretty simple in terms of theory. If you don't adjust the parameters of fuel and air to match what you've done, the bike is going to run lean, and you're probably not going to make any more power. To go in and adjust the fuel map and add more fuel in the correct places to match the air that you're now moving through the motor because of your intake and exhaust, you're going to make more power. And so that's pretty simple. And so it's what Harley refers to as a stage one, intake, exhaust, tuner. And that's really what I wanted to talk about today, is that stage one and getting you set up to make power. So the bike will make more power and it'll run great and you'll be good to go. The point I guess I want to make beyond that is if you're thinking about what comes next, and that would be, cams, larger displacement, head work, throttle body, all the things that people talk about to make power. If you haven't set up with a good foundation of a high quality air cleaner and a high quality exhaust pipe, you're going to be kind of spitting into the wind doing the rest of that stuff. You really need to have the right high quality products at the beginning in order to get the maximum benefit from the work that you do. That's why I kept using the word opportunity. So the motor's not going to make a ton more power by adding an intake and exhaust, but you're going to hamstring yourself trying to make power when you go to build the motor and do actual engine work later if you haven't put the right parts on to begin with. So that's step one in how to make power out of a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, is get a good air cleaner and a good exhaust and be ready for what comes next. Sort of secret bonus step zero is a step that I think is overlooked. What's the first step in making power from a Harley-Davidson? Upgrade your suspension and upgrade your brakes. I say that with a smile because I think it's a step that most people don't get to until you start making power from the bike and go, holy shit, this bike doesn't handle very well and I need to be able to stop better. So that'll be a topic for another day, but yeah, I think step one in making power is suspension and brakes. Step two is what we're calling step one, which is air cleaner and exhaust. So that's it for now, and we'll come back and talk about some other topics. Maybe we'll talk about suspension next.